Blue, blue, blue. I don't know if this one is... Oh, here they are. Hello and welcome back. This is Tyler VA, broadcasting live from the Vault in Our Stars, and we have just finished playing Final Fantasy VIII, and we are ready to do a review on it. The best reviews are the reviews done when you've actually played the whole entire game. So, reviews done here are done in 13 categories. The categories are marketing, graphics, art, time, the length of time the game takes, the storyline, characters, gameplay, difficulty, gameplay, that's one, difficulty is another one, control functions, music, the mood, a lesson, and the overall feeling. Those are all then added up, divided by the amount that there are, 13, and that is our score. The scores that we use on here are a 1 through 10 scale. Each category gets a 1 through 10, and or 0 through 10. The 0 is just blatant punishment of the category, and 10 goes up to a classic. And 5 is just you're confused of whether it was a good or bad thing, suitably so. Starting off with the marketing of Final Fantasy VIII, I remember being around for the marketing of this. I had a PlayStation. Is it PlayStation 2? I think it might have been PlayStation 2. I can vaguely remember the box and everything, and being so surprised that it had 4 discs. And I remember the cinematic scenes of the trailer and being really excited for that. So, just nostalgia factoring, I'm going to give it an 8 on marketing, because I remember others being pretty excited for it too. It's a Final Fantasy game. People get pretty excited about this. The graphics. I am in two minds about these graphics. I'm going to judge the graphics on this particular game. It has been updated. The graphics have been updated. And I believe it is the 3rd, possibly 4th time this game has been released with updated graphics. The updated graphics, I think, come into most play during the cinematic features of this game. No spoilers, that's in the title. But why is the background so blurry? It's really shitty blurry all the time. If they could have fixed anything, why wouldn't they have refixed how crappily blurry everything is? I'm gonna give it, I would say I'm a 5 confused because they updated them but they're still shitty, but I'm not confused that they're still shitty. So we're gonna give it a painful 4. Now, the art. They chose to use these graphics, so I'll judge the art based on what they have. I really enjoy the cinematography. That's always awesome. And the magics and the world and all of this is highly developed. You can see everything, like the benches, trees. It all looks like a real place that you would go to, and yet it's a completely fantastical world. So, really appreciate all of that. I'm going to give it a 9 for graphics, or for the art. Sure. That's real close. We got Artemis down here in the vault with us. She is bored out of her mind. She wants out of the vaults. Or at least this particular section of it. The time of the game, Category 4. It's a Final Fantasy game, and you go into it, you know it's going to be long. Obviously, there are parts of the game where I'm like, we don't need to be doing this, or you're clearly just having us run back and forth, and that can be pretty frustrating, but for the most part, I think it took the amount of time it needed to take in a lot of the cases. I'm going to give it a 7. On my scale here, an 8 exceeds the expectations, a 7 is just the job. I think it does the job. I don't think the length of time exceeds anything other than its amount. So, it would be nice to say it does the job. The storyline. Oh, it is a Final Fantasy game, so it's a fantasy, but the storyline is very convoluted in this one. I can't really tell you too much about it without spoiling anything. No, not too much. It has a lot to do with relationships and, that's pretty much all I really can say without ruining too much of the surprises, because a lot of stuff comes halfway in the game, and so if it was like a surprise that happened at the beginning of the game, I wouldn't feel like it's that big of a spoiler, but unfortunately, a lot of the relationships that we're building that are important, the dynamics of those relationships is what really makes the game storyline, and so unfortunately I can't even talk about the dynamics of those. Although I can say it's all a little much. The storyline, even for a Final Fantasy game, is heavy-handed, convoluted. This, no spoilers, I'll say it many times, you do go to so many different places, including outer space, and I don't know if any of that's all needed, but they make it needed because of the storyline, and so because of that, I think the storyline, it reaches out to get some of these things done, and I don't really care for that. I would say, as a storyline, it's a time saver. It doesn't necessarily do the job, but it keeps you busy. The characters. I love the characters, even the characters I don't like. Is this true? Even the characters I don't like, I like. I don't like Quistis, but I like her. I don't care for Cypher, but I like him. I even like Cypher's friends, who we have to fight constantly. Which in the game I don't like, but outside, I like them. Rinoa is one of the main characters who our relationship with her is, I don't think, a very big part of the storyline. However, I think Final Fantasy VIII thinks it's a big part of the storyline. So I won't say too much about that, but I don't like her, and I don't like her. Wait, no, that is the opposite. I don't like her, and we like her. So that's kind of frustrating, being in this, like, tri-relationship, and being the third wheel that doesn't like it, and has to watch it the whole time. So, as far as characters go, I'm gonna give it a high score of 9. Exceeds expectations? Definitely does, but it goes, I think, even beyond expectations to a 9. High praise on characters. Who doesn't like Squall? They even took him and brought him into other places. Selphie is just a joy. She's always happy and, like, rambunctious. So is Zell. And Irvine is a total cutie Mick sharpshooter. Straight from my heart. section, I should mark my category so I'm not completely guessing these all the time. Category number 7 is the gameplay. The gameplay is an interesting style. You take turns getting into battles. I'm not in any type of area to really show you that part. Let's see if I can quickly get into a fight with someone. This section is kind of where you start your game at, and you'll keep returning to it, so not a spoiler also. But, so the games are time-based, and there's this little beam bar down here that goes, when you use it, their bars are also coming up, you just can't see them. So, it's kind of interesting. It gives you a moment to think about what you're going to do. You'll have 2 other players most of the time with you, if you're also controlling. And while one's attacking, you can figure out what kind of attack you want to do with the other people. And it's not too overwhelming until suddenly it becomes overwhelming. So, gameplay, I enjoy it, and once again, it's kind of how Final Fantasy games work. They do vary a little bit, from having more of a chessboard kind of thing, or having your character run around, but it's all similar. For that reason, I'll just give it 7 just for that. There are a little bit of complaints. Actually, getting into, I wonder if... No, this would be the category to mention this, and I'm going to bring it down to a whopping 5. I'm bringing it down 2 points for it. This game, there's this draw sequence function, and you draw the magic out of the bad guys, and then you can use that magic. That's wonderful, and that's really cool. However, you then attach that magic, if you choose, to different stats of yourself. If you choose it on your life, it adds a little bit more to your life. If you choose it to your strength, it adds a little bit to your strength, and you can interchange them as you wish. But because you're attaching your magic to your stats, you don't want to use your magic. And that is a huge problem in the game. Because who doesn't want to use magic? But that's just a giant deterrent for you not to use your magic. So, we're gonna drag it down 2 points for that to a 5. Sorry, had to be done. The category 8 is difficulty. I think this game could have been a lot harder for me had I not known ahead of time that the average score of your players affects the average score of your enemies. So, knowing that, I kind of kept one of my characters down a lot, just in case I got into a big fight, I could bring down that big fight's HP as well. There was one point in the game, though, that was so hard I had to cheat. I had to use the functions that they give you in here. One of them I always use is the 3 times. It just makes things go faster. I don't consider that cheating. But the other one constantly makes it your turn and gives you full life and possibly your limit break. It just OPs you, basically. But it had to be done. I was in the middle of a fight that was a side quest, and they just made it ridiculously crazy. I think because it was a side quest, and they knew you didn't have to do it if you didn't want to. But so that aside, I won't include that in my difficulty ranking. I think I'm going to give it an 8. Nothing was so strong that I couldn't get past it, but there were a couple times that I died and had to just refigure out my my way of doing it. Control functions. I don't think there were any problems with the control functions. Because it's a time-based game and you aren't like frantically pushing all these buttons, you never really accidentally push anything, and there's a really nice hub for figuring out your characters and what they can do and your GFs and all that stuff. So I'm actually gonna give it a 9. I'm not sure if it can get better than it was. Should we give it a 10? Do I have any complaints about it? I don't think I do. A 10 it is. Why not? If I wouldn't change anything on it, then let's be fair. Category number 10. Music. I love the music in this game. This is also going to be a 10. From the very beginning of the game, that whole orchestral thing is one of my favorites. I probably say it in that beginning episode multiple times. But then it comes back at the very end of the game on the final boss. And that just got me, like, my heart pumping, like, okay, we got this. Time to do it. It's all come full circle. And even the orchestra's cheering you on. So, 10 for music. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. The mood. I will give the mood of the game, real quick. I can just tell you, it's an awesome mood to be had. However, farming is a big factor in this game, and that's a dull moment. Like, just having to constantly do that. There were a lot of times where I had it on 3 times, and was just running into fights and pressing X the whole time, and just waiting for things to start stacking up on myself. But, other than that, there was also the storyline of its convolutedness. Sometimes I didn't know what was going on. So I do think there were times where I should have been paying more attention, but there weren't the right cues to make it seem as important as it was, and it turns out it wasn't as important sometimes. So maybe we'll bring it down a bit for that. I'll say confused. Oh, I accidentally wrote in some weird things there. Okay, which is a 5, by the way. The lesson of the game. Don't fuck over your past relationships. I don't know if that's the thing. It's not a spoiler. I thought about that sentence before I said it. Honestly, I don't really think there is a lesson, and this is where a lot of games get their fall. But it's a fantasy game as well. If I was to reach, besides the random sentence I just said, I would also say idolization can be bad, and you should question yourself and hopefully have a good group of friends around you to question yourself when they see that you are unhealthily following something that you should not be following. Hashtag religion. So in that sense, I will give it a 7. It didn't need to have any type of real lesson, but that's a stronger lesson than a lot of games. The overall feeling of the game, I am gonna give it a 9. I almost said 10, and I hesitated. But this game is awesome. Nostalgia all over. I don't know how many times I've played it. I do feel like this is my first time beating it, but honestly, you don't have to beat it to enjoy it. There was nothing about Disc 4 that made me not enjoy playing Disc 1 through 3 however many times I did in the past. So, it's not necessarily a game that you need to beat. It's just a game that you can enjoy and play through and kind of even pick up and not really know where you are in the storyline. But have a walkthrough, because there are the times where once you get Ragnarok, you're just free to grow or go wherever you wish, and that can be a little confusing when you don't have someone reminding you to be like, you need to be going to this person's house, or you need to be going to this city, or whatnot. So overall, 9, I think is what I had started with, and I don't think I changed my mind in that last part. Let me add up these scores. 3 of those make that. 2 of these make that. That. And that. With one of these makes that. And then this, and that make that. Almost a round number. 50, 60, 70, 97, one of my higher scores. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 97. Okay. It is true. It is that number. Let's divide this by our categories. Round of applause. Drum roll, please. 13 equals 7.46, basically a 7.5, and I might even round it up to an 8? No, I think a 7.5 is a wonderful score. An 8 might be too much, because I have other Final Fantasy games that I think I like more than this one, and we gotta keep that room open. A 7.46 is definitely a beautiful 7.5. The funny thing about how long this game is, and yet it didn't get that low of a score on length, did it? Nope. Is it's on my list of games that I've played here. The list, you can barely see it because it's all whited out from the lights, but the list goes down to here. I have played 4 games, and then I put Final Fantasy VIII right here. We'll give it a 7.5. And then since then, I played 5, 6 different Mega Man games, and at least 4 other random games in between there. So, Final Fantasy, you were a long-ass game, and still didn't get that low of a score for length of time, which just shows you, you can be a long-ass game, and still keep, at least me, entertained. Just don't drag it out. Don't drag it out. I can't remember what game. It was like such an awful score for length of time. Oh, Days Gone. What a fun game. Long. Okay. Anyway, that's that review. Some quick things before I end the Final Fantasy review is a shout out to my walkthrough. Unfortunately, I don't have that many great things to say, but maybe at the end of it I will. The IGN walkthrough is what I used. I just looked up Final Fantasy VIII walkthrough and it was the second one, which means maybe I thought there was an even worse one to follow. But IGN, a couple of the things I did not like about it is that the mug ability that you can get through one of your GFs. It helps you, like, when you punch someone, you also steal an item from them. You can get a lot of things through that ability, and it doesn't tell you hardly any of those things unless it thinks that it's important, which is subjective, so I guess that's my complaint, is either tell me or do not tell me. But there are these items called Hero, and they make you invincible for a shorter amount of time than I thought they would. But it's a pretty awesome item, and they don't even mention that you get them through mugging certain individuals. Cypher, actually, that's not a spoiler at all, that's just a warning to you to get your mug ready. Get your mug ready. Also, speaking of GFs, there are certain GFs you can get from different things. No, I'm sorry. There is a card game where you can get cards of each of the enemies and a lot of, I think, any of the characters. But in order to get some of them, usually the main characters and some of the GF cards, you have to fight different people. But a lot of the GF cards in particular, you can get in multiple places, and they don't tell you that. They only tell you, they actually even make it seem like you can only get them from the one locations they're telling you to get them from. But I found in Fisherman's Horizon in particular, you can seem to get a lot of cards in that area that are rare. Same thing with bad guys. There are a lot of bad guys that when you kill them, they give you special items that you can use to make weapons, or you can sell or do whatever you want with them. But they make it seem as if some of these bad guys can only be found in certain areas. But while that is true for some, it is not true for a majority of the creatures that they say that in. So I would say if you're looking for a particular item, don't base it off the walkthrough, just Google it and see where other people have said. There are actually people who have like made maps of different monsters and shit that are very helpful. Speaking of maps, I made a little chart for my GFs when I was playing. This is super helpful. I don't know if you want to go through and waste your time doing it, but each GF helps your stats in different ways, and so putting on two GFs that help you with the same stats is not helpful. So I made this where these are my stats, these are the GFs, and then I can kind of figure out which ones are doing beneficial to my people. And I have little marks here. Dashes are the ones, like, dashes would be TVISOP. So all the ones that go to TVISOP are there. And then the dots go to Quistis, or whoever you're choosing for your people. Super helpful. And I had one more thing here. These are more like complaints, more so about the game, not necessarily IGN's walkthrough. But my big compliment for IGN's walkthrough is you can play through it and read through it without it ruining too much of the storyline. Like, there's still a lot of surprises for you to figure out yourself within the walkthrough's direction, and I guess that was nice. It was like, it's not babying me through it and being like, and make sure you take 4 steps up. Although, sometimes they're describing something and showing you a picture of something else, and it completely throws you off, and it can actually head you in a completely different direction, and that can be very frustrating. But I think I will end this here. That is my review for Final Fantasy 8. Final Fantasy 8. Thank you so much for being in this long-ass journey. I'm pretty sure there's at least over 50 episodes. I'm sure there's about 75 or so. We will find out when we put it in a playlist. Thank you for watching. Like I said, this is Tyrell VA signing off from the vaults. Hey girl. Peace out. Oh, you finally came for me.